Welcome to NFL Nexus, your home for the most detailed, deep dive analysis in the game. Today, we are digging into the New York Giants 2026 offseason, and, this one is absolutely fascinating. It's a story about a huge, splashy signing that got the entire fan base fired up, but it's also a story about a hidden, really dangerous problem that could honestly derail everything before it even gets going. And maybe most importantly, it's about that one last critical move that could completely change their future. So if you really want to understand what's going on with the G-Men, you're in the right spot. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit that like button if you're ready to get into the details. And hey, if you're looking for a great gift, you can help support what we do here by picking up one of our coloring books. They're awesome for kids, grandkids, and adults too. You can find them through the link in the description. All right, let's get into it.
So here's our game plan for this breakdown. First, we'll talk about that spark in the Meadowlands. Yep, the big signing that got everyone talking. Then we have to step back and face the ghosts of 2025 to really understand why that spark was so badly needed. After that, we're going to uncover the unseen crisis that's kind of lurking just under the surface. We'll look at a quietly important step they took to start fixing it before digging into why protecting the future has to be their number 1, 2, and 3 priority. And then we'll wrap it all up by revealing the final puzzle piece that could tie this entire offseason together and really define their season.
All right, let's start with the big one. You know how every offseason, there's that one move that just sends a jolt through the fan base, the one that makes you feel like, okay, the direction is finally changing. Well, for the 2026 Giants, this was that move. This was the acquisition that felt like a true statement of intent, a signal that things were actually about to be different.
Look, after a truly brutal 2025 season, there was this heavy cloud just hanging over the franchise. But as soon as free agency opened, the Giants front office, led by GM Joe Shin, did not mess around. They made a super aggressive, really decisive move right out of the gate, and it sent a clear message to the rest of the league and, more importantly, to their own locker room that the days of being the NFC East's doormat are over. This wasn't just another signing, it was a shot of pure energy.
So what was that big move? It was signing tight end Isaiah Likely. And let me tell you, he is so much more than just another pass catcher. They call him a chess piece for a very good reason. This isn't your traditional tight end who just parks himself next to a tackle to block. No. He is a dynamic weapon they can move all over the formation to create absolute nightmares for defenses, pitting his size against a smaller safety or his speed against a slower linebacker. And here's the kicker. This move reunites him with his former coach, the Giants' new head coach, John Harbaugh. So Harbaugh already knows the exact playbook to unlock his skills and how to get the most out of him on every single snap.
So just think about the ripple effect here. First off, having a guy who can dominate the middle of the field forces a defense to completely change its game plan. That opens up everything on the outside for a guy like Malik Neighbors, assuming he's healthy. Second, for a young quarterback like Jackson Dart, having a go-to safety valve target like this is huge for his confidence. It's that guy he knows he can count on when a play breaks down. Third, down in the red zone where things get tight, a big athletic body like Likely is a defender's worst nightmare. And finally, you gotta love the strategy here. They didn't just add a great player, they stole one from a top AFC contender. So you make yourself better while making a rival just a little bit weaker. That's just smart business.
But to really, truly get why a signing like Isaiah Likely's feels so massive, why it created such a genuine spark of hope, we've got to look back at the darkness that came before it. We need to understand the frustrating, absolutely soul-crushing season that was 2025. On the surface, the story of 2025 is right here in this number, a grim 4-13. It's a record that, let's be honest, pretty much sealed the deal for head coach Brian Daboll. It screams uncompetitive team. But, as is so often the case in the NFL, that final record, it doesn't even come close to telling the whole story.
The reality is the 2025 Giants were, as one person put it, a walking heartbreak. This was not a team that was getting blown out of the water every Sunday. No, this was a team that was agonizingly close, losing a mind-boggling 7 games by 1 score. And what's worse, they blew double-digit leads in 5 of those losses. Can you just imagine the frustration of that? Week in, week out, being good enough to get ahead, good enough to be in the game right up to the final whistle, but just never good enough to slam the door shut. That's what their entire season felt like.
So when you start digging through the wreckage of that season, you see this team stuck in a painful spot. They knew how to compete, but they had absolutely no idea how to win. The defense just couldn't get that key stop when they needed it. Losing their best receiver, Malik Neighbors, to injury was just a brutal blow on offense. And yeah, we saw some really promising flashes from the young quarterback Jackson Dart, but it just wasn't enough to overcome everything else. This was supposed to be a year of taking a step forward, but instead it felt like they were stuck in mud, just spinning their wheels. Okay, so let's fast forward back to 2026. The Giants have been busy, right? They made the huge splash with Isaiah Likely, they've been fixing other parts of the roster, but all of these flashy, exciting moves are essentially papering over a much deeper, more fundamental, and, well, frankly, a more dangerous problem. And if they don't address it, all those other great moves could end up meaning nothing. In this quote just perfectly illustrates the entire issue. It's such a great analogy. The front office went out and bought this beautiful, expensive crystal chandelier. That's Isaiah Likely. It looks amazing, it catches the light, everyone's talking about it. But they are trying to hang it in a house that still has a giant gaping hole in its roof. The very foundation of the entire offensive structure is just not sound.
And that gaping hole, that missing roof, it's the offensive line. Specifically, the right side of the offensive line. And listen, this isn't just some small crack, it's a full-blown crisis. Because if they don't fix it, the franchise's single biggest asset, their potential future, quarterback Jackson Dart, is going to spend the whole season being treated not like a franchise QB, but like a crash test dummy. He'll be running for his life instead of making plays downfield. And that's how young quarterbacks get hurt, and how they develop bad habits they can never shake.
So here's the situation. The right side of their line has been a total revolving door. And now, a key veteran piece is hitting the market. What that means is the pocket, the safe space for your quarterback, can just collapse in under 3 seconds. For a QB, that's an eternity of panic. It forces you to take your eyes off your receivers and start looking for the pass rush. You start to feel pressure even when it's not there. It's what players call seeing ghosts. And when your quarterback is seeing ghosts, I don't care if you have Jerry Rice out there, your offense can't function.
Now, in all fairness, the front office isn't just sitting there with their eyes closed. They seem to get that this is a problem. And while the Isaiah Likely signing got all the big headlines, they made another, much quieter move that was a very smart, very important first step toward fixing the issues in the trenches. GM Joe Schoen has definitely been active, making some smart, targeted moves. I mean, he completely retooled the special teams, added some veteran help in the secondary. But I want you to look at the very last name on this list, because for the story we're telling today, it's the most important one there. The re-signing of offensive lineman Jermaine Eluemunor.
And hey, you don't have to take my word for it. Just look at the instant reaction from a guy who knows a thing or two about what a quarterback needs. Former NFL QB and current ESPN analyst Dan Orlovsky immediately hopped on social media to point out how big of a deal this was. He gets it. While it doesn't create the same buzz as signing a new weapon, keeping a quality, reliable veteran lineman is one of those foundational moves you have to make to build a winning offense. Eluemunor's return is so crucial for a few key reasons. First, his versatility is a huge advantage. The guy can play multiple spots, which gives the coaches a ton of flexibility. Second, his experience just brings a level of stability and leadership to a room that desperately needs it. Third, he's a physical player, and that's essential if you want to run the ball effectively, which is always a young quarterback's best friend. And finally, it provides continuity. Offensive lines are all about chemistry, and keeping a guy you can depend on is a smart, critical first step. But the big question hanging over everything is it enough?
And this brings us right to the fundamental choice, the big philosophical decision that Joe Schoen and the entire Giants front office are facing. It's a choice that's going to determine whether this whole rebuild works or if it's just going to be another sad chapter in a long story of wasting talented players behind a bad offensive line.
You know, the blueprint to build a truly dangerous team in this league isn't some big secret. Step 1, get weapons. They did that with Likely, check. But step 2 is you have to fortify the foundation. You have to aggressively, and I mean aggressively, upgrade that offensive line. That is the one step you just cannot skip, because if you do, you never get to step 3, which is unleashing your quarterback. And if you can't do that, you will never ever get to step 4, actually challenging the big dogs in your division. I mean, look at the Eagles and the Cowboys. They built their teams from the inside out by dominating in the trenches. And until the Giants truly commit to doing the same, they're always going to be looking up at them in the standings. So, what does that real commitment to the foundation actually look like in practice? Well, it means the offseason is not over. It means the shopping isn't done. It means that even with the moves they've already made, there is one more big, final puzzle piece required to finish this picture.
Here is the mandate, plain and simple, for the front office. They cannot be timid right now. They can't just cross their fingers and hope a mid-round draft pick works out. They need to dive right back into the deep end of the free agent market and find a proven veteran anchor for that line. And this is the most important part. They have to be willing to overpay, if that's what it takes. This is not the time to be cheap. Sure, the price tag for a top-tier lineman is high, but you know what's more expensive? Ruining your young franchise quarterback. That cost is infinitely higher.
The good news for the Giants is that there are still guys out there. Players like Taylor Decker, Joel Bitonio, Cam Robinson. These are proven, high-level veterans who can step in on day one and dominate. Signing a player of this caliber isn't just an upgrade, it is a total transformation. It would immediately solve a massive problem and send a wave of confidence through that entire offense, starting with the guy taking the snaps.
And really, this is what it all boils down to. When we look back on this 2026 offseason, we're not going to judge it by how many touchdowns Isaiah Likely scores. We're going to judge it based on whether the Giants front office finally gave their young quarterback the protection he needs to breathe, to grow, and to win. The Likely signing was the spark. It got everybody excited and hopeful. But fixing the trenches with one more dominant veteran player, that's the fuel. That is the thing that will actually start the fire and turn this team from one that's just improving into one that is genuinely dangerous.
And that right there is the multi-million-dollar question, isn't it? The Giants have lit the spark, but will they add the fuel? I want to know what you think is the right move. Drop it in the comments below. Should they overpay for a proven veteran or take their chances in the draft? If you found this breakdown helpful, please do me a favor and like the video and subscribe to NFL Nexus for more deep dives just like this one. And hey, don't forget, you can support the channel by checking out our coloring books with the QR code right there on your screen. Thanks for watching.